In this GlassTrax training video, I'll be covering how to set up your departments for barcode scanning for production status reports. Now, everyone on GlassTrax knows that one of the best features we offer is the ability to track individual pieces of glass throughout the production process. What this video will be covering is how to get to that point where you can access this feature and have it show you accurate information. So the first place we're going to be going to is inventory control, master files, and items. You don't need to bring in an item. You can just come straight down here to light tasks and then click on the departments button. Here is where you would define your departments. Now you can see here that I have cut, polished, tempered, and finished. You can have as many or as few departments as you'd like. Just make sure that when you're putting them in, you are putting them in a correct order. So if a piece of glass were to go through every department that you have listed, what would the order be? Now in my case, for example, I wouldn't put tempered first before cut because you obviously need to cut your glass before you temper it. And so cut comes first in mine. The next column that you need to worry about is process. Now notice all of mine except for polish have zeros on them. So basically what I've done is I've checked this box, and as I do that, it turns into a 1 here. And basically what I'm telling GlassTrax at that point is that if I were to have a piece of glass go through my polish department, it's because I've added a relevant process for that department. Otherwise, it will skip that department. Now the zeros mean that no matter what, basically, if the item is capable of hitting that department, it will hit that department. When the 1 there makes it conditional to say it is capable of hitting that department as long as I add a process such as a flat polish or a pencil polish to this piece of glass. So those are really the only 2 columns that you need to worry about here. Just the department name in the right order, and then whether or not the department requires a process. Once you're done with that, you can export your list of items here, and it will generate an Excel spreadsheet file like this one. It lists all of your item IDs along with their categories and then your departments that you've defined here. Now I'm going to pick this one as an example. For example, right here, I have quarter clear tempered set to go through. This was cut, then polish, if applicable, and then tempered. I can go ahead and say, yeah, let's make it go through the finished department here as well. So now as I save this and import this back into GlassTrax using this import function, it updates the departments that item is capable of hitting. So basically on this spreadsheet, what you need to do is put an capital X under each column that an item is capable of hitting. Not what it's going to hit every time, but if it's possible that this item goes through that department, it needs a capital X. And then once you save that, you import that back in using the import function here. So I'm going to pull that quarter clear tempered in right here just to show you. I've got my light tasks here now once I've got the item in, and it shows you right here. It goes through cut, polished, tempered, and finished. So you can see, hey, we've got those 4 departments that it's capable of hitting. And again, since we have that polish marked as requires process, it may or may not actually hit the polish department depending on what I tell GlassTrax I'm doing to this glass, if I'm putting a pencil polish or flat polish on it. The other thing that you need to check on this item ID screen prior to looking at the processes is to make sure that you have optimization codes in here. So for example, I've got 1/4 in here. You might have your Optima or your Perfect Cut or any other optimization software. They usually have something called material codes or optimization codes. That's what usually goes here for when we export to your optimizing table. However, if you don't use the table or if you don't have an optimization software, you can literally put anything in these boxes and it will go ahead and notify GlassTrax that, hey, this is something that needs to be in production, and it will appear on your sales order production screen, which we'll get to in just a moment. The next thing that you need to do is assign processes to the correct departments. So for example, if I come in here to processing charge maintenance and I pull in my flat polish, this is what we've been talking about. Right here, I've got my process group / department. I have it currently set to polish. So I've associated this flat polish to the polishing department. So now if a piece of glass is capable of hitting the polishing department and I've added flat P to that particular piece of glass, it now tells GlassTrax, okay, remember how that department for polish requires a process? This is the process. This is what we're adding to the glass. It's associated here. So now that I've added it, it needs to go through that department. Make sure that you do have your department here exactly the way you have it in your department screen that we were just looking at. Notice right here, if I pull it back in, I have polish, not polisher, not polishing, it's polish. And it's the same way here, it's polish, not polisher or polishing. It has to match exactly so that it can be associated. Once you've got all of your processes assigned to the correct department, you go ahead and save them. And now let me show you how this works in action with a sales order. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out a quick sales order here. Now, if you need information or training on how to do a sales order, please look at our other training videos. In this case, I'm going to go rather quickly through this part, and I'm going to go ahead and say we're on here, and I'm going to do that same 1/4 inch piece of glass, 1/4 inch clear tempered. One piece we'll say is 33 by 24. And in this first one, I am going to say I'm adding a flat polish to it. So I'm signifying to GlassTrax, hey, this needs to go through the polishing department, right? Because I had that set up and associated on that screen that we were just in. I'm going to go ahead and say it needs a logo and say line finished. I'm going to do one more of the exact same item, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say this one does not require a flat polish. So notice same measurements, same item ID, same everything, but I'm not adding a flat polish to it. I'm just going to go ahead and say, yes, it needs a logo. Order finished here. And now it's going to add my surcharge, and I can create a packing list. I'm not going to print out anything for this video. And now I'm going to pull that order back in, and we'll see how it looks now on the sales order production screen. So here's where the cool part comes in. Notice right here, here's the first one. It's supposed to go to cut. We added the polish, so it needs to go to polish. It's tempered, so it needs to go through tempered, and finished. This one was the identical piece of glass. The only difference was we did not add that flat polish to it. But so it goes cut, skips the polish department, and goes to tempered and finished. So that's how GlassTrax works with setting up departments, making sure the processes are associated with those departments, and then going ahead and looking at the sales order production screen.